Hi, Shubhas.
Yeah, hi Jitendra. Am I audible, Jitendra?
Yep, yep, loud and
Okay,
clear.
thank you. Yeah, okay, thank you. I think you are joining after so many days, right? Seems like.
Yeah, actually, I was moving, and the time is problematic for me since I live in Netherlands. So
Okay,
this is the time I generally come from office. So
okay. Yeah, hello Bernard.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, hi Bertha.
Hello Bernard. Hello Jitendra.
hello.
Hi.
Hello Tall. Hello team.
How's it work?
Hey, good morning, Subhash.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Tall. Yeah, we are just giving one more minute to start the discussion. Yeah, hello Vim.
Hey, I'm in a noisy place, so it's hard to talk.
Okay, sure. Okay. Okay. So already we have passed 3 minutes. So let's start today's discussion. Let me share my screen first. Okay, I hope it's visible to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So hello everyone. So today is the 29th February. This is the work group 5 meeting. So which talks around the service assurance. So as per the today's planned agenda, we will go around the observability, some updates and requirement. So and the second one, our user story impact analysis. So last time, Bernard was giving started this discussion around the resource dependency on the high level intent. So we had some discussion, and also Bernard has presented one demo as well. The third one, then we'll go on this service assurance framework side, means like what we are thinking, what are the comments. So those things we will go around it. So yeah, so let's check if Stephen is there for the observability. Okay, Actually, yeah, last 2 weeks we missed to get the update from the observability, so I thought we'll add it as a first item. So actually, since Stephen is not there, so let's jump on the second topic. That is the impact analysis. So Bernard, would you like to share some updates on the impact analysis, like what we are how we are doing the progress?
So from my point of view, I have no update here. I was believing that as soon as Wim has a little bit more time, he would be able to share sort of the implementation details of the approach he had sort of been reflecting last time. And based on that, we would then sort of evaluate if it suffices to address the needs listed in the user story. And I believe since we've had this Mobile World Congress, there was not enough time to address that topic yet, but I believe Wim wanted to sort of provide that information as soon as he's got a little bit more time to breathe.
Yeah, Bernard, thank you. So actually, recently, yesterday, I was having the discussion with the Wim. I was inviting Wim to present some introduction on NF to infra, so that workgroup 5 folks could understand it, and yeah, we can hook our requirement on the NF to infra. But yeah, today he's traveling, so he might not be able to present it. Yeah,
I'm in a noisy place, so I'll do it
Yeah.
next week. I can do next week, as I said, right? So today is a bit of a problem for me.
Yeah, sure, Wim. I'll update everyone on behalf of you. So Wim suggested that next week he would able to present. So I hope that will help us to understand the overall picture and on the NF infra, and we'll able to put our requirement or realize our requirement on top of it. So actually, Bernard, I was giving a try on the impact, the demo that you had shared, right? So I was just giving a try, and I was facing some trouble in order to run your demo. And also, I was thinking, did you try to run your demo on the UPF package or SMF package? Because I was thinking like in the package which you tried, right, about the core side control plane. So there it was related to intent was able to correlate with the pod and volume and those information, because it was already available in the package. But I was just taking a look on the UPF and SMF. So I was seeing that this low level details are not available. So that gets added during the hydration process. So do you think?
So let me try to explain a little bit the process. So the question is, how do I derive the dependency information in the context of a package? And first of all, it's obvious that all the resources which belong to a certain folder are basically related to the package. That means if you want to sort of deploy the package, you sort of would have a list of resources related to that. And since the packages also have a substructure, there could be folders in folders. Basically, you also can derive out of that folder structure the dependencies between the packages, at least in this sort of folder context. In addition, there are certain common, let's say, rules of how you can derive dependencies, for instance, regarding the selectors and the deployments. If you've got a service definition and you've got selectors in that, then you can correlate that with the labels of the deployments and stateful sets. If you've got sort of persistent volume claims, you can try to relate that to sort of config maps, etc., if they have been defined in the same package. So these are the mechanisms which are being used in the demo. If you, by the way, have got any questions, please sort of reach out to me and I'll try to clarify sort of what kind of issues, how they could be resolved. And basically, this is only a sort of a proof of concept type of work. Now, in addition, sort of the result of all that basically relates to sort of a list of resources, and each of those resources then entities, and each of those entities then sort of has a list of dependencies which have been detected in the context of this KPT function. What could be used in addition would be annotations. That means if we would have, for instance, in the resource definitions, annotations which would then follow the same structure, they could also be sort of used and then augmented, or be used in order to derive further dependencies from that package structure. That means there could be, for instance, references to external packages or other entities which cannot be sort of described sort of or automatically derived out of those mechanisms which I've been mentioning before. Because you could, for instance, have dependencies between custom resources which you've never heard of, and therefore sort of I believe an annotation mechanism might be helpful to sort of allow vendors to specify those dependencies in addition. And of course, if the vendor would provide its own dependencies YAML file, for instance, this could also serve as an additional foundation where, for instance, you might not even need to execute the KPT function to derive those dependencies. So the approach basically says there needs to be a mechanism, could be via a KPT function or via API, as Wim has pointed out, which would allow us to have as an input a package, and as an output, we have sort of this additional information where all the dependency information is being listed here. And the source of information could be either the actual implicit package structure or annotations, or even an existing dependency YAMLs file or whatever, which is sort of part of the package provided by the vendor.
Okay. Yeah, Bernard. So next question I'll go. So this dependencies .yaml, what we will compute, so will it going to be consumed somewhere in the pipeline, or it will be only the served to north of Nephew?
So the first assumption is that since there are so many service assurance approaches around, I just wanted to make sure that whatever type of system would want to pick up that information would have that information available in a sort of machine readable format. So sort of I'm not making any assumptions of who's going to evaluate that yet.
Okay.
But of course, we could try to combine that with any kind of tools which we believe might want to sort of make use of that, be it, for instance, for sort of root cause analysis or impact analysis purposes. I just wanted to have, as a first step, this information available. You might remember the subsequent user stories I was listing regarding how do I define the KPIs, how do I define sort of the policies and triggers to be considered here. Those sort of would be able then to build upon those the information which has been derived sort of via this mechanism.
Okay, sure, Bernard. Yeah, actually, I was giving a try some error I was facing here. So yeah, I'll let you know about it. And also,
Yes, let's do that separately,
yeah,
because
sure.
we don't want to.
Yeah, sure, of course. And also, I hope it will be good if we run this demo against the UPF or SMF package, and in the same repository, we'll try to keep the information like what we got, what kind of relation we are getting, right? So that people can take a look. Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, it's important. So I don't want to invent additional concepts if there's already a good solution in place. And that's why we said sort of this demo just wanted to highlight the concepts. If we can get that from the NF2 infra approach, that's fine. Just wanted to make sure that we get this information and have that as a machine readable format available for further processing.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, your thoughts, then we need a dependency graph, something in this format, where we have the resource and it's a list of the dependencies, right?
Yes.
Okay. So any comments or any thoughts from folks, or any questions? Okay, thank you. And yeah, thank you, Bernard, for this explanation. So with this, I'll jump on our third item.
Subhash, I think Stephen has joined, so maybe we can have a quick update on the first one. What do you
Yeah,
say?
of course, sure. Thank you, Vardhan. So yeah, Stephen, sorry, last 2 times, last 2 weeks, actually, we did not get you, give you opportunity to share the updates on the observability side. So extremely sorry for that. We have kept your topic as the first one. So please go ahead. If you have any updates from the observability side, just Stephen. We are not able to hear you, Stephen. Stephen, are you able to hear
Hello?
us? Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what happened. This is like a Zoom weird thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, last week because I was going to speak when you asked me to speak, but then apparently no one heard me. So that was obviously
Yeah,
a
it was
problem.
very faint voice last time. I remember. Yeah.
So we had a meeting. So Sebastian actually showed up on the meeting, so he notes. We had a meeting on Monday Pacific time, and or Tuesday the rest of the world, and then so this topic actually brought up in terms of what is the northbound API for applications such as the SA to consume. So one, I've always operated under one extreme, which is the observability natively has only very flimsy knowledge about the data, and therefore the only thing we can key off of is the fact that we can group everything under a single unit of our CLD. So if you create an NF deployment, then we pull as much data as possible, whatever that means, that we're able to tag and understanding that is actually related to NF deployment. We may still do that on the northbound, meaning the fetching side of the northbound, the querying side, because what we'll do is we stream all the unstructured data to the management cluster, and there's a data lake where we'll maintain the data, and then we don't expect any major interpretive logic on top of the data lake. There's probably some SQL interface for you to fetch, but then beyond that, it was brought to our attention, I think, during the meeting, that what SA require is I don't want to say complex, but somewhat non-trivial condition sets and I guess expressions of some sort, where you are subscribing to the visibility data, or even to a point where, or giving an alert when XYZ happens, type expressions that are needed for observability to send the data to a particular subscriber. And so I needed that anyway. So this is actually needed for the actor pod for SA. And then so for observability, we've always had the idea that something in workload cluster needs to be able to get the visibility data. And for us, for a while, that was needed because of the operator, with the NF operators. But then NF operator is slightly easier because NF operators, we assume, has context and ability to interpret vendor-specific metrics and trays and stuff. So we kind of like load that logic and say that if you want to know if this metrics has to do with throughput, obviously you know how to do it because you're the you're from the NF vendor. But then the actor pod requirements, or actually SA general requirements, kind of ask us to do something where we talked about earlier, which is, do we create some sort of common structure or definitions such that cross vendors will be able to stream data to an application endpoint that probably isn't aware of the vendor's data, or doesn't know how to interpret vendor data. So this was brought up as, you know, to two extreme would be like we're not in the business of doing this, versus we should do something. I think Vim during that time suggested a couple of things, obviously. So we suggested using GNMI, a gRPC wrapper, from the more of a open config remnant. It is an RFC, so it's a networking standard, but it's more like a SNMP type structure on top of gRPC, as a protocol at least, for something like an Actopod to subscribe to, which is okay by itself, which still doesn't solve the problem of giving the interface of saying that I would like to know if interface X is currently having this throughput, or give me the throughput data.
Stephen, you are not audible. I hope so for others also.
Yes. Suddenly it got dropped. Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether I got dropped or he got dropped. Looks like he got dropped.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he's back. Stephen is back.
Stephen is
Yes.
back. Yeah, Stephen. You
I
got
think what happens
disconnected.
Yeah, let me. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I think what happens is, what I saw from a computer recently is the Zoom, the Zoom applications, or the Zoom actually, Ethernet application is actually running on the browser. It's assuming that the audio needs to be connected to my phone. So sometimes it may actually go into the phone audios. This is really annoying. I don't know where that comes from. Anyway, so where did I get dropped?
Vim suggested a few things.
Yeah, so Vim suggestions of GNMI, which is more of a transport protocol, with, you know, well-defined actions that you can do. Subscribing probably the best one for this particular use case. So that's fine, and then we can certainly write an OTelX receivers exporter to export something through GNMI. That's okay. And then the second part is that doesn't solve the problem of us defining subscribe to informations about all the different throughput informations on this interface for this network functions, because cross vendors, that they may have different metrics. I mean, this is probably too simple to be different metrics, but still. And then, you know, I mean, we don't know what it is yet at this point. Using GNMI, maybe we start exploring OpenConfig definitions. I don't want to commit to that. I don't want to say yes, definitely that way. But this is an open item at this point. That if SA wants to have, SA itself doesn't want to have like vendor plugins, which I would understand. They don't. Then how do we contextualize the raw data that we are getting, so that you're only getting things that you care about? And even then, if you interpret the metrics, is it something that you would? Do we have to format it? So those are the questions that kind of raised on the Monday meeting, Tuesday meeting. So the short answer is we know your requirements. There's certain things that we know we can do, and then your requirements requires a little more discussions with the task force, with the community, with the subgroup community, to see which direction we're going to go.
Yeah, Bala, you have raised your
Go ahead, Bala. Sorry, I've been talking.
No, that's fine. So my questions are it's very, very fundamental at this point of time, because I've not been following the observability since it goes in the night. So are we using the OpenTelemetry, Stephen, for that?
Yeah. So that's I think that we get consensus. Yes.
Okay, so we are using OpenTelemetry, right? So that's good.
Yeah.
So that's good. I was gonna suggest that one anyway,
Okay.
because that means it's gonna give us both. It's not only it's gonna give us the metrics collection probably in future.
Yeah, but yeah,
give
traces
us a way
and
for
logs
logging
also,
and traces.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's
all right.
That's
one more vote, so even more consensus. Isn't that nice?
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. So from a storage and collection perspective, from the metrics, are we using Prometheus or?
On at least on the management cluster or wherever we run the centralized entities. So in that case, yeah, we'll be using off the box things that works very well with Hotel. Jaeger and Prometheus are the two collectors that naturally and natively work.
Okay. So
Fluent D's for logs, probably most likely there's like EKS discussions. I think there's some licensing things that we probably don't want to touch. So that's probably okay.
okay. Okay.
And then so those are the things that we want to put. For sure, we want to put one instance on a management cluster. Piatra from Orange, who's an active member of the subgroup, he's suggesting having collectors anyway on workload clusters. We still want to kind of see the use case.
Yeah, I was from an integration. So thank you so much. I think it makes sense to me. Let's say Prometheus was for the collector, and then we can use Grafana for using the visualization because all those stack works well. I don't have hands-on, but I just read about it, so I'm just making those comments. So in terms of integrations, right? Integrations with the SA framework. We could again. I'm sorry if this has been already discussed. I apologize if it is something very new. So I was thinking if from the observability and the SA is one of the clients of observability, right? So we just talked about specific integrations between those two. You spoke about GNMI,
so
things like that.
The subgroup is building a framework. SA is the one that has explicit requirements.
Got it. So, but where are they going to consume the metrics? Let's say we do this hotel, and then let's say Prometheus is used as a collector and storage at the storage layer. So, are they going to integrate with that, or are they going to do a specific implementation?
No, they have an Actopod. SA has an Actopod that sits on workload clusters. They want to have more of a, again, slightly more complex expressions to say this is the things that I want to subscribe to. This is KPI.
I mean, they can do that, but are they doing that? I'm using, let's the architecture, the way we have for the observability is like observability is collecting all the logs, and Prometheus is using on the management cluster. Let's say we even have a Prometheus collector on the workload cluster for the sake of it. For the sake of it.
Yeah.
For the sake of it. So where is SA getting the metrics from?
The question goes into what I just talked about, right? So even if we open up a Prometheus on workload clusters, and they can use the Prometheus related SQL to just query the time series database. The problem for them is the metrics are not standards, so they would have to understand. So let's say, for argument's sake, SA wants to know N6 throughput for time A to time B, right? And then maybe for vendor A and B, this is actually different sets of metrics. So they either understand all of them, or they would have some sort of vendor plugin so that the vendor would be able to read that and normalize it into an event, and send it over to SA. So we think it's a lot of work. Either SA becomes a framework by itself that let vendor plug in, or you offload that into observability so that we as Nefio, as framework, expose a set of KPI that we would do any vendor integrations, if we have any plugins and things ourselves. So that's itself. I can't say we have finalized.
Okay. Yeah. So the ideal situation is like very loosely coupled components in my view. Observability it's concerned.
So we're not writing observability specifically for SA.
Yes, absolutely. So it just collects the data, it uses the hotel, and then dumps the data in Prometheus, let's say, and then the raw data and the raw time series data is in Prometheus. I'm just making an example. It could be something else, but Prometheus is kind of widely used, so I'm making that up. So and then if SA for its use cases wants an
Mhm.
abstraction layer between Prometheus and itself in order to, for example, it may want to, data in other granularity than what is available in, for example, it
Mhm.
may want a standard deviation. It may want some kind of a weighted thing it wants to do. So that is up to SA to write the
So
abstraction.
calculating based
Yeah,
on metrics
yeah.
absolutely would be the application's job.
Yes.
In terms of like, oh, do we want to fully expose the collectors directly to the applications? I think there is a lot of admissions control concerns that we would have to manage. Even if we said, oh, here is the Prometheus endpoint that you can access.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can directly use the query language from the Prometheus to fetch from the time series database. That itself is a lot of questions, because Rahul actually showed up on one of our meetings and talk about security a lot. And so we should be a little more aware, I guess, when we build frameworks. And that concern we already know anyway, even before Rahul talked about it. So Rahul mostly was talking about and other problems that we haven't solved, which is how do we send something back to the management cluster. But it seems like ZigZag has a common framework that may be able to help. So I'll put that on the side. But then in terms of that, in terms of mission controls, even if we have well-known collectors with well-known interface that we're asking applications to just directly utilize, we as a framework, we still have to have emission controls over those and expose the endpoints and what kind of things you can actually read. Based on whoever launched the SA, that identity needs to carry over to what kind of data they have access to. So that becomes a slightly bigger framework that we have to kind of play with. And B, as we're going back to the same problem, which is if we allow them to fetch stuff, raw data directly, then we are offloading the vendor specific informations into the applications, which I'm happy to, but I just want to know if the application, which in this case SA, would be okay with that. So they would have to be able to interpret 3.5GC versus OAI versus, say, in the future, if we have vendors like Nokia versus Ericsson versus Samsung, they have different, the raw data you fetch are basically they're defined, their own vendor specific defined metrics, for example, because you use Prometheus. And then the KPI would be like, oh, I want to understand how many subscribers are there on this on the core, or what is the throughput of the DU, for example, and then they would have to go fetch those, understand them, and be able to say this is the KPI. This would be one extreme, and then the other extreme would be observability somehow understand that and be able to. A Netfield would have to define the KPI for them to subscribe to. So we haven't finalized yet on which direction. Or when we're not, there's like a middle ground in between.
That's true. But probably if we can finalize from a technical, from pure architecture perspective, if we can figure out what I was trying to say was, if we can do a clear separation of concerns and clear demarcations and clear interfaces between different entity points, I think that should be good. And like you said, the use cases will evolve over a period of time. And in order to support those use cases, obviously we will end up collecting more metrics, maybe transforming those metrics to generate derivative metrics. So those things will happen it will take its natural course. But purely from an integration perspective, if we can say, this is what observability framework does, this is the metrics. For now, it's going to collect these metrics. It's going to store it in this instance. This is how any client for that matter. SA is a client. There is no special case for SA. SA, as any other client, would access the metric in this standard way. I mean, if we can do that, if we do not special case, if we have that standard architectural components defined, that would be a great first step.
Right, because I also mentioned that obviously observability is also a user exposed tool. So we definitely have to have some interface for users to say, let me fetch information about from this time to this time pertaining to this network functions that I just deployed, and give it to us, basically, right? So yeah, I mean, it's not just software consume; it's actually also user consume.
User consume, that's fine, because That's okay. I know Subhash has raised his hand. I'll just say something about this, then I'll stop. So
Yeah, go
for this particular thing, for example, if you're talking about user thing, it may be something like Grafana where the user wants to see the UI, so it can consume the metrics directly. Or if you want to write an abstraction layer just on top of Prometheus in order to facilitate certain specific queries from the users, we can do that too. That's fine. But at that point of time, that is going to be just another interface on top of the observability framework.
Yeah.
So with that, probably Subhash, I know you raised your hand for such a long time. Please, sorry about that.
No problem. Well, you covered, I think, my queries also. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
So obviously it will be
clear separation, clear demarcations, and clear interfaces. If you do that, then there is no special casing, and then everybody's happy. Yeah. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I think Bala has covered some of my aspects also. Like I wanted to ask on the cross-vendor translation of raw data. So that responsibility we need to decide either maybe ASA would be talking to observability to configure those translators, or maybe observability will offer those translators. So that way, of course, we need to decide it. So any thoughts
No,
on it?
It has not. So yeah, it has not.
Yeah. So Stephen, what is your
because I think that was one of the if you remember Tuesday's meeting for you guys, the Tuesday's meeting, that was one of the items that we talked about in the middle.
Yeah.
And then at that point, as I said, when we started, I wasn't thinking this is not Nephio's business to define a set of KPI where everyone has to conform to, but there are open standards already for at least basic networking related KPIs. So we could leverage that. I think that was being brought up, and we're open to this. And even then, right? I mean, whether or not this do they support it to a point where we can use the entire framework to fetch it, like using the open config plus GNLI framework to fetch it. We haven't explored, so it's kind of early to know. Too early to know.
Yeah. So Stephen, would it be good if we create some kind of interest group who could work on this particular aspect?
So this is one of the issues that I filed on the L3 observability. So if we can get interest party to start jumping on and discuss on the issues, and then identify a person to kind of like lead the interest, then that would be great.
Because I feel it's very important. Like the interested folks work on this particular integration, so that will help us to make a progress very quickly in R3 itself, I feel. Yeah, sure. So I'll note this point. I'll add in notes also so that we can discuss further also. Okay, thank you, Stephen. So any other queries on the observability side? Okay. So with this, I'll jump on our third item. So that was service assurance framework. So we were discussing on this particular aspects in the last meetings also. Like if you see this use case, that can be actually subdivided into two parts, where we do the package placement for the actor. So the step number 1 to 7. So this is entirely, this part is responsible for placing the actor in the workload cluster. And the second part, where the service assurance part we do, we read, we collect the KPI parameters, we take some actions, right? So, so that is another way of visualizing it, that we need to configure the first part where we place the actor, and also configure the service assurance loop, and the second part mostly the action part, right? So as recently we were discussing with the BIM also, so BIM suggested that this step possibly could NF to infra could also offer. We could use the capabilities of NF to infra in order to do the package actor placement. Because when we deploy the package, we would know there are some service assurance related activity we need to do it, and and what is a dependency, the NF to infra will take care and place the actor in the correct place, and the actor will start interacting with the observability possibly, and it will do the action part. So we are just waiting. Next week we will get to know more about the NF to infra, and we will just analyze how we can again integrate, or whether there is a possibility to use the NF to infra in this particular flow. So that we will analyze, and further we will refine it. Okay, so this was the update from the ODU bandwidth assurance side. And also, actually, I would invite everyone to go through this review comments, and I'll encourage everyone to add their thoughts. That will help us to shape the framework also. So these are the main update from our third aspect, service assurance framework. So any comments on it, or any thoughts? Do you think like what should be the next approach in order to take this particular user story, ODU bandwidth assurance? Okay. But yeah, I'll encourage everyone to participate on it and share your thoughts. And we have covered all the three items before time. Currently, we still have the 20 minutes. So any other items anyone would like to add in the agenda and discuss? Any comments? Okay, so I'll take this silence as a no, and then we can adjourn today's meeting. So thank you for joining, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subhash.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Stephen,
Bye.
today.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.